Let's talk about luxury. Not the Instagram version of luxury, not the highlight reel version where someone steps out of a sports car, flashes a watch, and suddenly the comments section is full of fire emojis. Let's talk about the real engine behind it. Because luxury brands aren't just selling products, they're selling psychology. Every time someone buys a $5,000 handbag, a $10,000 watch, or a $300 pair of sneakers, something interesting is happening inside the human brain. And the fascinating part is this: most people think they're buying the product, but they're not. They're buying the feeling. To understand this better, let's look at one of the most powerful figures in the luxury world, Bernard Arnault. Arnault is the CEO of LVMH, the largest luxury group in the world. Under his empire sit some of the most famous luxury brands ever created. Names like Louis Vuitton, Dior, Fendi, and Moet & Chandon. Together, these brands generate tens of billions of dollars every year, and Arnault himself often competes with people like Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk for the title of the richest person on Earth. Now here's the interesting question. How? Because if you strip away the branding, many luxury products are not dramatically better than their cheaper alternatives. A $6,000 handbag still carries the same things a $60 handbag does. A $10,000 watch still tells the same time as a $50 watch. And yet people line up outside stores to buy them. Not occasionally, consistently, year after year, generation after generation. So what's really going on here? To answer that question, we need to understand a powerful concept in human psychology called heuristics. Heuristics are mental shortcuts. Our brains use them constantly because thinking deeply about every decision would take too much energy. Imagine if every time you bought a product, you had to analyze the materials, compare manufacturing costs, study design engineering, and calculate long-term value. You would never buy anything. Your brain would simply get exhausted. So instead, the brain uses shortcuts. If something is expensive, it must be good. If everyone else wants it, it must be valuable. If it looks beautiful, it must be well made. These shortcuts allow us to make fast decisions, and luxury brands have mastered the art of designing products and experiences that trigger these shortcuts perfectly. They understand that humans rarely buy logically. We buy emotionally. Then we justify the decision logically afterward. Think about the last time you saw someone wearing a luxury item. Maybe it was a handbag with a famous logo. Maybe it was a watch. Maybe it was a pair of designer shoes. What was the first thought that came into your mind? You probably didn't think about the stitching quality. You probably didn't think about the production cost. Instead, your brain made a quick judgment: success, wealth, status, taste. That judgment happened in less than a second, and that is exactly what luxury brands design their products to do. Because luxury isn't really about utility, it's about perception. Luxury brands are not competing in the market of normal products. They're competing in the market of human identity. In other words, when someone buys luxury, they are often buying a story about who they are or who they want to become. And that story is worth a lot more than the physical product itself. But here's where things get even more interesting. Luxury brands don't just rely on one psychological shortcut. They rely on several. Over decades, marketers and behavioral psychologists have identified patterns in how luxury consumers make decisions, patterns that show up again and again across cultures, countries, and income levels. And once you understand these patterns, luxury branding suddenly becomes much less mysterious. You begin to see the invisible system behind it, a system built on 5 powerful psychological triggers that influence how people perceive value. Triggers that quietly shape the way we judge products, brands, and even other people. In the next section, we're going to break down the first of those triggers, and once you see it, you'll start noticing it everywhere, from luxury watches to high-end restaurants, expensive cars, and even tech products. Because one of the biggest illusions in the world of luxury starts with something surprisingly simple: price. Now, Let's start with one of the most powerful psychological forces in luxury, the belief that expensive means better.
In psychology, this is often called the price-quality bias. When we see a higher price, our brain automatically assumes higher quality, even if we have no evidence. This shortcut exists because, in many cases, it actually works. A $5 meal usually isn't the same as a $100 dinner. A cheap plastic chair probably isn't built like a handcrafted wooden one. Over time, our brains learn to associate price with quality. Luxury brands know this, and they use it deliberately. Take handbags, for example. A luxury handbag from Louis Vuitton can cost thousands of dollars, but the material cost and the production cost are only a small fraction of that price. The rest of the price is psychological. The moment the price goes up, something interesting happens inside the customer's mind. The product starts to feel more valuable, more exclusive, more desirable. But price alone isn't enough, because if a random company sold a handbag for $5,000 with no reputation, most people would laugh. That's where the second psychological trigger comes in: brand prestige. When people see a powerful brand name, it acts as a shortcut for trust and status. Think about brands like Gucci, Chanel, or Rolex. These brands have spent decades building a reputation that signals wealth, craftsmanship, and exclusivity. So when someone sees the logo, their brain doesn't analyze the product from scratch. Instead, the brain says, if it's from this brand, it must be valuable. That logo becomes a shortcut, a symbol, a signal. And in luxury, signals are everything. Because luxury products often serve another purpose beyond functionality. They communicate something to the outside world: status, success, belonging. Imagine two watches. One costs $50, the other costs $10,000. Both tell the exact same time. But when someone walks into a room wearing a Rolex, the message being sent isn't about time. It's about identity. Luxury brands understand that humans are deeply social creatures. Our brains evolved in small tribes where survival often depended on fitting in with the group. Thousands of years later, that instinct still exists. Even when we believe we're making independent decisions, the opinions and behaviors of the people around us quietly shape what we want. Now let's talk about one of the most powerful forces behind luxury consumption: social influence. Humans are deeply social creatures. Our brains evolved in small tribes where survival often depended on fitting in with the group. Thousands of years later, that instinct still exists. Even when we believe we're making independent decisions, the opinions and behaviors of the people around us quietly shape what we want. Humans are deeply social creatures. Our brains evolved in small tribes where survival often depended on fitting in with the group. Thousands of years later, that instinct still exists. Even when we believe we're making independent decisions, the opinions and behaviors of the people around us quietly shape what we want. In psychology, this is often described as social proof. When we see others valuing something, we start valuing it too. Luxury brands rely heavily on this. Think about how often luxury products appear in movies, music videos, social media posts, and celebrity culture. When a celebrity walks onto a red carpet wearing Dior or Chanel, millions of people see it. Suddenly, the brand isn't just a product anymore. It becomes associated with fame, beauty, success, and influence. And when people see successful individuals using a product, the brain makes another shortcut. If successful people choose this, maybe I should too. That's social proof in action. But it doesn't only work through celebrities. It also works inside everyday social circles. Imagine a group of friends where everyone starts wearing a particular brand of shoes. Maybe someone buys a designer belt. Then another friend buys one too. Soon, it becomes part of the group's identity. If you enter that group without the same style, you might feel slightly out of place. not because anyone forced you to buy it, but because humans naturally want to belong. Luxury brands understand this dynamic very well. They're not just selling individual products, they're selling membership in a social group, a symbol that says, "I belong here." And sometimes the desire to belong is even stronger than the desire to stand out. That might sound surprising because luxury is often associated with uniqueness, but in reality, many luxury purchases are driven by the opposite, conformity. People often buy luxury items not to be different from their group, but to match it, to align with the standards of the people around them. This is especially visible in industries like fashion. If a particular bag suddenly becomes popular among influencers, demand explodes. The same happens with watches, sneakers, and even cars. Once enough people desire something, the desire spreads like a ripple through society. But there's another deeper layer to luxury psychology that many people overlook, and that's cultural meaning. Luxury brands often connect themselves to history, heritage, and tradition. This gives their products a sense of timeless value. For example, Hermès is famous for its craftsmanship and heritage. The brand often emphasizes that many of its products are still handmade using traditional techniques. That story matters, because when people buy luxury, they're not just buying an object, they're buying a narrative, a sense of history, a sense of culture, something that feels bigger than the product itself. This is sometimes described as cultural capital. Owning certain brands signals not just wealth, but taste, knowledge, and sophistication. Someone wearing a luxury watch might be signaling financial success, but someone wearing a very specific heritage brand might be signaling something different: refinement, understanding of tradition, connection to culture. Luxury brands carefully cultivate this perception over decades. They tell stories about their founders. They highlight craftsmanship. They celebrate their legacy. Because the longer a brand's history appears, the more valuable it feels. People trust things that have survived time, and in luxury, history becomes part of the product. But underneath all of these psychological triggers, price, prestige, scarcity, social proof, and cultural heritage, there is one core motivation driving everything: emotion. People don't buy luxury because they logically need it. They buy luxury because of how it makes them feel. Sometimes that feeling is reward, a celebration after achieving something difficult. Sometimes it's confidence. Wearing something beautiful can change how a person walks, speaks, and carries themselves. Sometimes it's identity, a way to express who someone believes they are or who they aspire to become. And sometimes it's simply pleasure. Humans enjoy beauty. We enjoy craftsmanship. We enjoy things that feel special. Luxury brands are experts at turning those emotions into desire. And when desire becomes strong enough, the price often stops being the main concern. That's the hidden psychology of luxury. It's not about fabric. It's not about leather. It's not even about the product itself. It's about perception. Because in the world of luxury, the most valuable thing a brand can create isn't a handbag or a watch. It's meaning. Once a brand successfully attaches meaning to a product, the value of that product can multiply many times over. That's why a simple logo can transform an ordinary item into something people are willing to wait months for or spend thousands of dollars on. So the next time you see someone wearing a luxury brand, remember this: you're not just looking at a product, you're looking at psychology. Decades of marketing, storytelling, and behavioral science carefully designed to influence how humans perceive value. And whether we realize it or not, those invisible forces shape the choices we make every day.